Hi everyone, this is Ravi Gupta. Welcome to Engineering Adda. So today I will be discussing how we can develop a REST API using the GraphQL and Spring Boot. So what is GraphQL? So for that we'll move to the next slide. So it's a query language for your API. So whatever API that you are developing, so using the GraphQL query, we can directly fetch the details of the APIs. Whatever details is there in the API, we can directly using the GraphQL query, we can fetch those things. So like we have already we have APIs that we can develop using the REST and REST is there, okay, and some other features are also there. But why GraphQL we are going to use? So there is a specific reason why we are using the GraphQL because whenever you are going to extract the result from the database or from anywhere using some standard API like REST API, I would say, then when you will hit the endpoint, it will be giving all the details. Like I'm giving a scenario like you have developed a API for getting the users list of all the users into the database, and user has some details like name, address, father name, mother name, salary. Okay, so these five details are there for the user, including ID, like six details are there. Okay, so whenever you are going to hit the API to get to get the result of user one, say, or the user with the name Ravi, say, so you will be getting all the details, like all six field you will get from from the database when you will hit the API. But in the case of GraphQL, if you need some particular field to be retrieved for particular database or for particular query, then it is possible. So it will save lot of time, or it will what it will do, it will just speed up the execution of fetching the data from the database using the API. So that is why we are using the GraphQL here. So it is a dynamic query, I would say. So this was a brief of why you are going to use the GraphQL. So GraphQL is a query language for APIs and a runtime for fulfilling those queries with your existing data. And the next term, what I can say about the GraphQL is it's provide the complete understandable description of the data in your API and gives client the power to ask for exactly what they need and nothing more. Make it easier to evolve API over time and enable powerful developer tools. So it is very powerful developer tool, and I will just visit you through the website of the GraphQL so that you can see how it look like. So this is the main website of the GraphQL. So what they tell us about the GraphQL is just describe your data. So we need to create a, I would say, table type structure in your application that you're going to develop. So that, and you have to describe what type of data that you are going to use for the GraphQL. So you have to describe your data, ask for what you want, and then you have to run some query into the postman, or I would say from where you want to run it, and then you will get the result. So these three things we will see. So first of all, I'm going to just develop a simple REST API, and the database that I'm going to use is MySQL, and then we'll see how we can implement the GraphQL there and reduce the load of the API. Okay, fetching the data from the database. So I will just yeah, I'm just going to use the MySQL as a database, and Spring Boot application we're going to develop. So for that we need IntelliJ and the MySQL install on your system. So I'm going to just create one database for this GraphQL. So I just open my MySQL workbench, and here I'm going to create one database called GraphQL. Okay, it's already existing. So let me rename it GraphQL 1, something like that, and apply. Okay, so it is done. And now I'm just going to point here, okay, in the GraphQL. one. And yeah, the next step that I'm going to follow is I'm just going to create one database, sorry, one application. The database is already created. So go to the IntelliJ Spring initializer, and then now here you can just give the name of your application. I'm just giving like Graph Spring GraphQL example. GraphQL uses in Spring Boot in REST API Spring Boot. Okay, and next, and I will be needing some dependency for the, yeah, I will be needing some dependency like Spring Web. Okay, Spring for GraphQL, and we'll use some dependency like Lombok. For database, I'm going to use MySQL, and we need some JPA repository for the data connection. Okay, so this much starter dependency we need. Okay, so I'm just going to create it now. Okay, so let the project be created, and then we'll try to develop the APIs and then try to use the GraphQL there. So here I will just brief you about the project that I'm going to develop. Okay, it is not opening the Maven project type, so I'm just closing it and reopening it again. Open. So where it is, where it was in microservice communication. Okay, and it was there. New window. So, so I'm just briefing you about the project that I'm going to create. I'm just going to create a simple user application. Okay, so that we can just insert some users into the database and retrieve some users from the database. So I'm going to do that, and like we will be creating some simple APIs first, and then try to get the details or insert the details of the user into the database, and then how we can convert those things using the GraphQL. I'm just then after that I will show you. So just open this thing. So here I'm going to create some packages like call entity, some package like repo, service IMPL. Inside service, I need to create one package. Later on, I can create and controller. Sorry, guys, it's going there. Let me create here controller. Okay, and yeah, in the entity, I'm just going to create the user entity. So just name it like user, and some instance variable will need to create. So it's a ID, private integer ID, user ID would be there. Okay, say it's user ID, private string name, private string father name, and private string address. So I'm just taking four details: ID, name. Okay, ID, name, father name, and address. And we will be generating the getter and setter using data, which is a Lambda annotation, and some other annotation like all argument constructor, no argument constructor, table. So we'll name table like GraphQL table, something like that. Name is equal to user table, something like that. Yeah, user table. And this is the entity class, right? So we'll annotate it with the entity. And this is the ID. Okay, user ID is the ID and it should be auto generated. So for that, we'll get generated value, and strategy should be identity. Sorry. Yeah. So we are good with the development of the entity class, and now going to the repo, I'm just creating the user repository. So it's a interface user repo interface that will create, and it should extend the ZPA repository, and here it should be user and integer. Let import the user class here. Okay, and coming back to the service, I need user service interface, user service. Okay, and here we'll be creating some uh, interfaces. Okay, so it should be annotated with the red service, I would say, and then let create some method like public get all users. Okay, something like that. Its return type should be a list of users. Okay, let import the user here and list also. And now let create some user, some method like get user by ID, something like that. Get user by ID, and we should be passing here user ID. Okay, and its return type should be user. Yeah, and create one method for the insertion. So public void insert user, something like that. And yeah, here I think, yeah, we need to pass the user. Okay, so user. Okay, so that is good. And now I'm just creating the IMPL package, and then we'll create the service IMPL class there. Okay, so creating user service IMPL class, and then it should implement the user service, right? This is the architecture that we'd follow. So yeah, implementing, and we'll implement all the methods and we'll see. So it is a list of users that we are returning here. Okay, so what we'll do, so we simply auto wire the user repository here, and then it should annotate with at the rate component. Okay, and we'll auto wire the user repository, and we'll call all the methods provided by the JPA there, and we'll try to implement all these methods inside the user service IMPL. Okay, so I'm just auto wiring that private user repo. Okay, and here what we'll need to do, user repo dot find all and return. Yeah, and here it should be user repo dot find by ID. something like that, find by ID, and here we'll pass the user ID. Okay, and what is the issue? Make user ID return this. Uh, find by user. Why it is coming like this? So it should be find by ID only, but in the case if it is throwing some exception, so we need to catch up that thing. Okay, so for that only it was giving some error. Uh, New runtime exception, I would say, and it should be user not found, found something like that. I would say, or else throw. I would say something like that. Yeah. So it is good now. And here we'll call user repo and then we'll save the user that is provided into the argument. Okay, so that is what we are going to do here. Okay, so it is all good with the implementation. Now I'm going to create the controller class and then see user controller. Okay, now we should annotate it with that rest controller at the rate request mapping. Let it map something like API. Okay, and now I'm just going to create those implementation. But before that, we need the service. I am service, sorry, user service things to be here. So I'm just going to auto-var the instance of the user service. So I'm just going to create user service, okay. And then we'll create some get mapping and the post mapping. So I'm just going to create the post mapping first, and here we can provide something like insert, okay, and then we'll call the method something like public void insert user, and then we'll pass the parameter here like request body, and then we need to pass the parameter as a user. So user and user object, okay, so let it import the user class. Okay, now what we'll do using this service, we'll call the methods inside the service. And what was that? It was like insert user. Okay, so insert user and then provide the user here. Similarly, we need to create two others methods for the get API. Okay, I'm just going to do that. So get all users. Okay, and here we need not to provide anything, I would say, and then all users. Okay, and then here we need to do the find all. Sorry, user service dot find all users. Okay, and the return type should be the list of users. Okay, and let import it, and we should simply return this. Here also we should return this. What is this? We don't need to return anything. Then why it is giving the error? Okay, because of the name, I think. Yeah. So that is good. It is good. And now we need to have this. It should be a get mapping. And here we need to we need to have get mapping only, and then it should be user, and then by ID we need to provide the ID. Okay, so let it be user ID, and here we need to provide the user ID at the rate path variable, something like that, and it should be int user ID, and let's change the name, find the user by ID, and with the help of user service just going to get user by ID, and we'll pass this user ID here, and just do this. Okay, and it should return the user, right? So I'm going to do these things. Why it is giving some error? Okay, return statement we need to provide here. So it is good, 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 and here it should be returned or not. I won't say because we are not returning anything. Okay, so insert is good. Getting all the users is good. Getting a mapping, get mapping, getting all the sorry, getting user by ID is also good. So we are good with the development of the APIs also. So everything is good. Now just going to application properties and just do some configuration to connect with the database. So I already have some configuration here. So just going to use that thing. Okay. So you can pause the video and you can take it from here, or if you need, I can provide into the comment section. So please comment on that. So what is there? Where is yeah. So you can see it is, I'm just mentioning it is a port at 9090. Okay, and this is the driver that we need to provide. It's MySQL driver, and it was GraphQL 1. Okay, I think it is, this was the database. I would say GraphQL 1. Yeah, go there. And this is the password for me, and this all the dialect that we need to show. Okay, so everything is good, I would say. Now coming to the, let's see if something is, just close this. So this is good. Now coming to the configuration, we are good now, and this is the simple REST API that we have developed now. And after that, if it is working fine, then we'll try to use the GraphQL to reduce those things. So then you will need, then you will come to see that how the GraphQL is reducing, or what is the work of the GraphQL. So that thing we'll see. Uh, so yeah, we can see the database is created, user table is created into the database. Okay, and it is working fine, I would say. So just go to the database first and then try to see if the data table is created or not. So I'm going to refresh it, go to the table. You can see the user table is created here. So just select, do a select statement, and then you can see nothing is there, but yeah, table is created for us. So now going to the postman and trying to hit some, uh, trying to hit some APIs to insert the data. Okay, so it's a local host 9090, and it should be API, and then what should be the body? Okay, it should be API. Okay, go to the user controller. Then you can see, yeah, yeah, request mapping was API, and then to insert the user, we are going here into the insert URL. So go to the postman, go to the insert now. So we are good with this. Now uh, this is the body. Okay, and now it should be the name. Okay, and father name, and then this was the address. Okay, okay, and just going to do this. Name should be Ravi, I would say. Father name is Shiv, and address is Delhi. Okay, and Just remove this. We are good with this URL. This is the post, insert and all name. ID should be auto generated, so we are skipping that ID. Just hit it. And here you can see no error is coming. So I think the database we have inserted the record. So just select this and run it again. So you can see here the name, father name, and everything is there. Similar way you can insert multiple of data is there. So let should be Rahul and it should be Sanjay, something like that, and then Delhi. Try to insert it. Similar way, uh, Rajan, something like Amar, then Delhi. Yeah, let insert it and come to the database now, and then try to run it and see all the record are inserted. Yeah, so here you can see all the records are inserted successfully. So what we are going to do now? So I'm just going to hit the Gate API also to see if it is working fine or not. So 9090 and then it is API and then for finding the API, what was that? All users and then user and user ID. So first I'm going to see for the all users and then we'll see for the particular user ID. So just run it and then you can see all the records are there. Okay, one, two, three records are there, and then we can also see for particular user by ID. So user and then ID should be one. Let's search it. So you can see for the user ID one. So each API is working fine for us. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the GraphQL uh, one GraphQL file, and then there we need to provide the data that we need to call in the API and then try to run the GraphQL query, something like that. So I'm going to do those things. S- So now coming to the, so here we can in the resource we can create one documentary or directory I would say with the name GraphQL. Okay, and I have to create one file here with the name schema.graphqls. It should be same guys. Okay, so just add it. And IntelliJ has some plugin for the GraphQL, so you have to install it. Okay, if you have not installed, you just try to install and then try to create these things. Okay, so schema.graphqls, and now we need to provide. Uh, uh, so I'm just briefing you about the GraphQL. So here you can see you need to describe your data, and then you need to search for those data and then get the result. So we need to describe those data there. So a similar way, like we have created the entity user, or we are doing every operation around the user, right? So similar way, we need to create type user, and then these things we need to provide. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so coming back to the IntelliJ here, yeah. So you need to open the schema.graphqls, and then now we need to do like type, and then uh, what should be there? It's a name, and a name was of int type, right? And so it should be type user, and the ID that we are providing was user ID, and it should be of GraphQL ID type, which is like this, and we should be having a name. Okay, and the name was of a string type. Similar way, we were having the father name and address. So something like that, father name, it should be string type only, and address, it should be of a string type, right? So we have created the data that was, so here you can see it was asking for describing the data. So we have created the data here. Now coming back to the query, like if you are going to fetch something from the database, then you have the tagline like query, And if you want to update or insert something, then you have some other tagline. So here I'm just going to fetch the data from the database. So I'm just going to try the query type only. So coming to the IntelliJ, yeah. So here type should be query. Okay, type should be query, and here you can provide the method name that you are going to write it down here. Okay, so I'm going to write the query for only two methods that we have created. The first one is like find user by ID and get all users. So similar way, I'm just going to write the method there. So and its return type you need to provide. Okay, so say if the method name is this, so what is the return type of this method? So it should be list of users, right? So that you need to do. And similar way you can come here and just copy the other one, find user by ID, and then come to the GraphQL. And here you need to provide the user ID. Okay, so user ID, and what was the type of user ID? It was of int type, right? And then what we need to do is what is the return type of it? So it's return type of user. User is the return type for this, right? So that thing we need to do. Why it is asking for this? Okay, int is there. Okay, so we are good with this, guys. And now what we'll need to do? We'll need to map these things to the controller class. So now what we'll do? We'll just try to like this method. What I would say, just come to the user controller. What you need to do is, so for these two methods, we have created the GraphQL query or GraphQL data, I would say. And now what we need to do, we need to map those query name here inside the get mapping and the post mapping if you are doing. So we are doing only for the get mapping. So here in place of all users, we need to map it like with the name of the method that we have provided here. So if all user is there, so it should be get all users and come here and just map it like that. Similar way, the find user is there. Okay, so we need to map it like this. So now we are good. Just save it, and I'm just going to rerun it and then try to see if we are getting some error or not. So, so I think yeah, everything is okay. So now come to the postman and then try to hit the URL and then try to see. So coming to the postman here. So here you can see, okay, it was this, and now you can do something like GraphQL and come to the GraphQL, and now here you need to create the query. Okay, so you need to create something like query, and what was the what was the URL that you're going to hit is there, right? So if you're going to hit this all users, copy it, come to the postman and make a query like this. And if you want to hit just get the name and the address, so you can come here and just get the name and address. Not you are not going to get the detail of the father, okay, for all the users. So I'm just sending it. Okay, it's coming null. Okay, get all users is null. Just okay, let me see. Sorry to say, guys, here I need to change this to the query mapping so that it can pick for the GraphQL. Okay, and the path variable should be changed to the argument, right? So that is the two mistake that I was doing. Now I'm just trying to stop and rerun it and then try to hit the API from the postman, and then we'll see what is happening. So let it up. Okay, so it is up. Now come to the postman and then try to hit it. So you can see all the users is coming with the name and address only because you have mentioned name and address only. If you try to mention something like father name here, it's automatically picking up. So just send it. You can see all the things is coming. But earlier what was happening, if you try to fetch all the details, then each and every field was there in the detail, right? Here you can filter out by the name of the fields that you want. So this is a dynamic query, and this is how the GraphQL is helping the API developers. Okay, so that is one that is working fine. Now coming back to the second query that we develop, find user by ID. How we can find the user with a particular ID? I'm just going to do that thing here. So just copy the name. Here you need to provide the argument. So it was the user ID. Okay, and just let the user ID is one, and then we are finding out the name and address for that. So just send it. So you can see for the user ID one in the database also you can all see what was the user ID one. So user ID one is Ravi, and here also we are getting the same things. So it is working fine, guys. So if you find this video helpful, then please subscribe the channel and please hit the like button. I will be keep posting all the videos related to the Spring Boot development. So please hit the subscribe button and please like the video. Thanks. Thanks for support, guys.